Brock Lesnar returns and aligns with Bron Breakker. Script: Brock Lesnar just returned to WWE and aligned himself with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed in the most unexpected faction formation of 2025. And if you think this makes any sense from a storyline perspective, you need to explain to me how three guys with zero previous connections suddenly becoming partners isn't WWE's laziest attempt at creating a dominant heel stable since they threw together random wrestlers and called it a faction. Monday Night Raw just witnessed something nobody saw coming. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed were in the ring cutting a promo about dominating the tag team division and how nobody on the roster could stop them. Standard heel stuff, talking about being unstoppable, disrespecting the competition, daring anyone to challenge them. The crowd's booing them appropriately. Everything seems like a typical Raw segment building toward an eventual babyface challenge. Then Brock Lesnar's music hits. The place absolutely erupts. Brock Lesnar hasn't been seen in WWE for months. There's been speculation about whether he'd ever return after all the controversy and legal issues surrounding him. His WWE future seemed uncertain at best. And now he's walking out on Raw with that trademark intensity, Paul Heyman at his side looking like the cat who ate the canary, heading straight toward the ring where Bron and Bronson are standing. Bron and Reed look at each other, clearly not sure what's happening. Is Brock about to destroy them? Is this a challenge? The crowd's losing their minds because a Brock Lesnar return always means chaos. Brock gets in the ring, stands face to face with Bron Breakker, and for a moment you can cut the tension with a knife. These are two absolute physical specimens. Bron's got that Steiner family genetic lottery winning physique, and Brock is, well, Brock Lesnar. Then Brock extends his hand. Bron looks at it, looks at Bronson Reed, looks back at Brock, and shakes it. The crowd's reaction shifts from excitement to confusion. Paul Heyman grabs a microphone and delivers the line that changes everything. Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing the formation of the most destructive force in WWE history. The Beast, the Breaker, the Bulldozer. Together, they will tear through every superstar on this roster and there is nothing anyone can do to stop them. Here's my first question: does this faction make any sense, or is WWE just throwing big guys together and hoping it works? Drop your honest take in the comments. Let me start by addressing the elephant in the room: Brock Lesnar's return itself. There's been significant controversy surrounding Brock due to his association with Vince McMahon and the allegations that came out during various investigations and lawsuits. Many people thought Brock's WWE career was done. His name being mentioned in legal documents and testimony created a PR nightmare that WWE typically runs away from. So for WWE to bring Brock back, they must be incredibly confident that the storm has passed, or they're making a calculated risk that his star power and drawing ability outweigh any potential negative publicity. From a business perspective, Brock Lesnar is still one of the biggest names in wrestling history. He's a legitimate crossover star who brings mainstream attention. If WWE thinks they can manage the PR, Brock's return makes financial sense. But aligning him with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed? That's where things get weird. Let's analyze each member of this new faction because the logic is questionable at best. Bron Breakker is the next generation Steiner. He's got the genes, the look, the intensity, and the in-ring ability. He's been positioned as a future world champion since the moment he debuted. WWE clearly sees him as a cornerstone of the company's future. Putting him with Brock Lesnar could either accelerate his development by association with a legend, or it could stifle his growth by making him a henchman rather than his own star. Bronson Reed is the powerhouse who's been on a tear lately. He's been booked as an unstoppable monster, running through opponents with his size and surprising agility. Reed's been building momentum as a singles competitor. Putting him in a faction could elevate him to the next level or could limit him by making him just one piece of a group rather than a standalone threat. Quick poll: who benefits most from this alliance, Brock, Bron, or Bronson? Sound off below. The immediate question is, what's the storyline reason for this alliance? Paul Heyman explained it in typical Heyman fashion by saying they're the most destructive force in WWE history. But that's not a reason, that's a description. Why do these three men need each other? What connects them beyond all being big and physical? Brock Lesnar has spent his entire career as either a lone wolf or aligned with Paul Heyman exclusively. He doesn't need backup. He's the beast incarnate who's beaten everyone. What does he gain from having Bron and Bronson with him? Is this Brock recognizing that he's older and needs muscle to extend his dominance? Is this Brock playing mentor to the next generation? WWE needs to clarify this quickly. For Bron and Bronson, the logic is slightly more apparent. Aligning with Brock Lesnar gives them instant credibility. They go from being promising talents to being Brock Lesnar's chosen allies. That association alone elevates their status. Plus, having Brock as a mentor figure could be positioned as them learning from the best. But it also risks making them look like they need Brock rather than being capable on their own. The Paul Heyman factor adds another layer. Heyman's been the wise man for Roman Reigns, then aligned with CM Punk, and now he's back with Brock Lesnar. Heyman collecting clients like Pokemon is becoming a running joke, but it also dilutes the specialness of being a Paul Heyman guy. If everyone's a Paul Heyman guy, nobody is. What WWE's probably going for is creating an unstoppable heel faction that can dominate multiple divisions. Brock can go after the World Championship. Braun and Bronson can dominate the tag team division. Together, they can take out anyone who opposes them. That's the theory. But faction booking in WWE has been hit or miss lately, so execution will determine whether this works. Real question, should Brock Lesnar be mentoring younger talent, or should he stay a lone wolf? Let me know your thoughts. The crowd reaction to this alliance has been mixed, which is telling. Half the crowd popped huge for Brock's return because he's Brock Lesnar. The other half seemed confused about why he's aligning with Braun and Bronson. That confusion isn't necessarily bad. WWE can use it to build intrigue, but they need to give us reasons to care about this faction beyond three big guys being big together. Social media exploded with reactions. Twitter's full of people making jokes about WWE's faction booking. Just throw big guys together and call it a stable is a common criticism. Reddit's debating whether this ruins Braun's singles push. YouTube comment sections are 50% excited about Brock being back, 50% confused about the booking. The faction needs a name. They can't just be called Brock, Braun, and Bronson, although that alliteration is kind of perfect. Maybe the Triple Bs? No, that's terrible. The Wrecking Crew? Taken. The Destroyers? Too generic. WWE needs to come up with something that sounds intimidating and marketable. Maybe Paul Heyman will do the naming, he's good at that. Let's talk about potential opponents because a heel faction is only as good as the babyfaces who challenge them. Who on the Raw roster can credibly stand up to three monsters? Cody Rhodes obviously, he's the champion and the top babyface. Seth Rollins when healthy could lead a resistance. Drew McIntyre if he's back from suspension would fight them alone. But you probably need a babyface faction to counter this heel faction. Maybe this is what brings the OC back together. Or what if this faction war becomes the catalyst for Roman Reigns to return and recruit his own team? Roman and the Usos versus Brock's new faction would be money. The history between Roman and Brock is legendary. Adding the next generation to that rivalry would be compelling. Or WWE could go completely unexpected and have unlikely allies team up to fight this threat. Imagine Cody Rhodes, GUSO, and Sami Zayn forming an alliance to combat Brock's faction. That's three guys who all have history being underdogs or overcoming odds. The storytelling writes itself. Who should be the first person or team to challenge this new faction? Give me your ideal opponent in the comments. The booking of this faction will be crucial. If WWE has them destroy everyone with no pushback, fans will get tired of them quickly. Even dominant heel factions need to show vulnerability occasionally. Look at the Bloodline, they were dominant but they lost sometimes, they had internal conflict, and they eventually imploded. That's good long-term storytelling. But WWE also needs to make them look legitimately threatening initially. Their first few weeks should be them destroying credible opponents to establish their dominance. Then once that's established, you can start building to babyfaces who might have a chance. That's basic booking, make the heels strong so the babyfaces look even stronger when they eventually overcome them. Brock Lesnar's match schedule is always a question. He's a part-timer who works a limited schedule. So how does that work with a faction? Is Brock only appearing for big matches while Braun and Bronson do the weekly TV? That could work. Brock's the nuclear option who comes in for premium live events. But it also means the faction feels incomplete most weeks. Or does Brock actually commit to a fuller schedule? That would be shocking given his history, but maybe that's part of why this faction exists. Maybe WWE negotiated a deal where Brock agreed to appear more regularly if he could work with younger guys he respects rather than grinding out singles feuds at his age. The championship picture gets interesting with this faction. If Brock challenges for the World Championship, he's obviously the favorite to win just based on his name and history. But if he wins, where does that leave Braun? Is Braun okay being secondary to Brock? That could create interesting internal tension down the line. Alternatively, WWE could do something bold and have Braun win the World Championship while being in this faction. That would establish Braun as the leader and Brock as the enforcer. That's unconventional. Usually the veteran is the leader, but it would show WWE's faith in Braun and position him as truly special if he's leading Brock Lesnar. Should Brock Lesnar win the World Championship again, or should he put over younger talent? This is important. Comment your opinion. The comparison to past WWE factions is inevitable. Evolution had the veteran stars, Triple H and Ric Flair, mentoring the future, Batista and Randy Orton. That's the most obvious template. But Evolution succeeded because the mentorship made sense. Triple H teaching the next generation how to dominate WWE. What's Brock teaching Braun and Bronson? How to suplex people. They already know how to destroy people. The Shield was three equals united by common purpose. That worked because they all brought different skills and had clear motivation. This new faction doesn't have that equality or clear unified goal yet. WWE needs to establish both. The Hurt Business was recent proof that faction booking can work when everyone has a defined role. Bobby Lashley was the muscle and champion. MVP was the mouthpiece. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander were the tag team. Everyone had purpose. Brock's faction needs that clarity. What makes factions successful is internal dynamics. The bloodline worked because of the family drama, the tension between members, the eventual betrayals. Even when they were dominant, we were invested in their relationships. Brock's faction needs that human element. Otherwise they're just three big guys standing together with no emotional investment. One potential story is the tension between Bron and Bronson over who's Brock's true chosen one. Both are ambitious. Both want to be top stars. Having to share Brock's attention and approval could create compelling conflict. Maybe Brock plays them against each other, or maybe they compete for his favor. That's psychology that makes factions interesting. The Paul Heyman element is crucial. Heyman's entire thing is finding and promoting the guy. He's been the advocate for Brock, for Roman, for CM Punk. Now he's advocating for three guys simultaneously. Does that work? Or does Heyman eventually have to choose who his true client is, creating a rift in the faction? Imagine this storyline: Brock's grooming both Braun and Bronson to be his successors. He puts them through increasingly difficult challenges. Eventually he'll choose one of them as his true heir, creating jealousy and eventual conflict. That's long-term booking that gives this faction a built-in story arc with a natural conclusion. Rate this faction on a scale of 1 to 10 based on potential. Drop your rating in the comments. The merchandise opportunities are obvious. WWE can sell triple threat t-shirts. No wait, that's confusing with the match type. The Dominators shirts. Paul Heyman can cut promos selling their official faction merch. Brock rarely does promotional stuff, but maybe having a faction gives him more commercial appeal beyond just his beast incarnate persona. From a business perspective, this faction makes sense if, and this is a big if, it's booked correctly. Brock returns generate buzz. Bron Breakker is a future star who needs elevation. Bronson Reed is hot right now. Combining them creates must-see TV and gives WWE multiple storyline options across different championships. But if it's just three big guys randomly together with no depth, it'll fail like so many WWE factions before it. The key is storytelling. Give us reasons to care beyond they're big and they destroy people. Make their relationships matter. Create tension, loyalty, and eventual betrayal. That's how you make a faction legendary. The women's division on Raw needs attention too, and hopefully this faction dominating doesn't suck all the oxygen out of the room. WWE's gotten better at balancing men's and women's stories, but when you have Brock Lesnar back, he tends to overshadow everything. WWE needs to be careful to give their entire roster opportunities, not just focus on the new faction. International expansion is something WWE's focused on. Having a faction of legitimate badasses could work really well for international tours and premium live events. Brock's a draw worldwide. Presenting him with two other monsters makes those shows feel more important and stacked. The long-term question is, where does this faction go? Do they hold all the gold and become insufferable heels everyone wants to see dethroned? Do they start as heels and eventually turn face as they defend their honor against new threats? Do they implode from within? Each path has been done before, so WWE needs to find fresh ways to tell this story. My fantasy booking: this faction dominates for 6 months. They hold multiple championships. They seem unstoppable. Then at WrestleMania, they face a united resistance of babyfaces in a massive multi-man match. During the match, Braun turns on Brock, revealing he's been using the legend to build his own reputation, and now he doesn't need him anymore. Braun destroys Brock, establishing himself as the new monster of WWE, while also setting up Brock's potential retirement match. Final question: will this faction last 6 months, a year, or longer? Give me your prediction in the comments. Brock Lesnar returning and aligning with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed is either brilliant long-term booking or a desperate attempt to create an instant dominant faction without doing the work to make it make sense. Time will tell which one it is. What I know for certain is this: Brock being back is going to generate attention. Braun and Bronson being associated with him immediately elevates them. If WWE can figure out the storytelling, give us the why behind this alliance, create compelling interpersonal dynamics, and build the satisfying payoffs, this could be a faction people talk about for years. But if it's just three big guys standing together because WWE thought it looked cool, it'll be forgotten in 3 months when they break up or quietly stop appearing together. The potential is there. The star power is there. The physical presence is there. Now WWE needs to prove they can book a faction properly in 2025. Give us reasons to invest emotionally, not just physically. Make us care about these three men beyond their ability to hit signature moves. Brock Lesnar shocked the world by returning and aligning with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. Whether that shock turns into sustained excellence or disappointed mediocrity depends entirely on what WWE does next. The foundation is laid. Now build the house.